All right, we're here for the midweek pods, talking to Daniel. Daniel, how are you?
Oh, all right, thanks. I've got these. There's some Euros games on while we're recording. France playing Poland and Austria. Austria now 1-up on the Netherlands, but I don't know why. But this story occurred to me that when United were away to Lyon in 2008, we managed to get to a club the night after the game, and I was dancing with this girl who seemed to be having interest in me, but it was loud in the club. And we get outside, and she discovers that I'm English. And she is fucking disgusted. And she's Polish, turns out. And I said, well, I'm also Jewish, so how do you like that?
Oh, man.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
who would like a car update?
Oh, yeah, come on, give us the car update. It's the summer, we've got nothing to talk about, so let's talk about cars.
Goodness me.
No more drama.
So I still have the car. I took it.
This is the rental.
Yeah, and I could see that the spray paint job was shit because I've now been told that if you can't properly see yourself in it, it's shit. So my brother-in-law knows someone at a garage around the corner from him, so I took it to him and said, I had this paint job done, told him the situation, and he starts looking around the car, and he's becoming more and more furious. And he goes, someone did this to my car, I'd drive it through their fucking garage. And it takes me through where it's shit. Like here, the silicone dropped here, and he's tried to polish it up here, but actually he's burnt through the paint over there, and all this stuff. And so I tell my guy, and I say, like, I need to give this car back, but I can't pay again for the job I paid you for. And he's like, right, well, they're just saying that because they want you to give them the work. I said, they're not, because they didn't offer the work. I said they did it as a favor just to make sure that I wasn't seeing things, that the job your guy did was rubbish. And he goes, well, why don't you bring it to me for a look? And I said, I'll do it, but it's another hour out of my time. So I need to know why I'm doing it. As far as I understand it, you're not a paintwork expert. Your paintwork guy certainly isn't a paintwork expert. So what happens if I bring it to you and you say, actually, this is a crap job? Then what? End of correspondence.
Wow.
So I think I might have to sue them.
If you bring it over here, I can sort it for you. I repainted my the bumper on my car, so it's all right. The test, can you see your face in it, is to check for orange peel. Have they done the clear coat properly?
Orange peel effect. I now know what orange peel effect is.
All right. Well, since we're on cars, I am repainting the wheels on my car. So I've stripped them all. I've taken out I've filled and or sanded all the bits where it had road rash. I've primered them all, and I'm going to apply the new paint at some point this week. So I'm driving around with a car with at various stages of 1, 2, 3, or 4 wheels of just primered wheels, which looks a bit odd, but there you go.
I screwed in a screw yesterday.
Well done,
in similar vein.
I did learn a new technique because I couldn't get one of the wheels off. It's where it meets the axle, it is kind of rusted in a stick, and YouTube taught me that you have to kick the wheel to get it off. That's the technical term. So I did, and it worked. There you go. All right, let's talk about some football rather than this nonsense. How have you been enjoying the Euros? Talking about the Euros and being disgusted with the English. How disgusted have you been with the English?
It's so fucking stupid, man. Like, I don't care about England. I don't support them. They're not my team. And yet watching them is making me furious.
Yeah.
Because there should be a good football team in there.
Yeah.
There is a good... And I wondered about it before, because Southgate's that kind of manager. If you give him options, he's going to have a problem. Because he doesn't know what to do. He struggled even when he didn't have options, I thought. And they were still doing well, more in spite of him than because of him. Like, sort of Deschamps kind of manner, where it's like, okay, they're being not like successful strong if you haven't won the thing, but they're doing pretty well every tournament now. But that's because they got some good players. It doesn't feel like, where would the occasion where they did something better because of Southgate, where a result wasn't going their way, and the Croatia game is the one that really stands out for me. The Croatia semi-final in the last World Cup. I remember watching it. I think I was covering it for TNT as they were Eurosport at the time. And Gary Neville goes at half time, England just got to come out and do the same thing. And I don't know, I was kind of sitting there thinking, surely you would know that this is not how football works, because you played in a team that often did not do that. And I think the worst thing England could do would be to assume that Croatia wouldn't improve. Like, you've got to anticipate that. And Southgate didn't anticipate that, and eventually they get beat. And if you look through the Southgate tournaments, who are the best team that England have beaten in the tournament?
Yeah, not many or any, really.
They beat a crack Germany.
A really crack Germany, yeah. Last Euros.
Semi-final against Denmark, man, is a proper open goal. And they only just managed to convert it. There's a final against that Italy, who didn't even qualify for the next tournament. Another open goal. We're 1-0 up after 3 minutes. You still can't see it out. And what we're seeing now, like the idea that you can take someone who's a dodgy right back and they will learn how to be an elite level midfield player on the job in an international tournament.
It's mad, isn't it?
It's some of the most batshit shit about ever shot. I mean, it's just like, what on earth are you talking about, man? Especially when you've got good players.
They've got good players, and that midfield, well, we talked about it pre-tournament, didn't we? That midfield, 2 of the 3 basically picked themselves. Bellingham and Rice are going to be in. Rice has his problems, clearly at international level. Mainly because he doesn't know how to take the ball and move it forward. I mean, it's the basics, but and so it's pick one of, right? And so in central midfield, he's brought along, other than those 2, Conor Gallagher, Adam Wharton, Kobbie Mainoo, right? So Gallagher, I think is pretty limited, but for what he does, runs around a lot. He does that well, running around a lot. And then you've got Mainoo and Wharton, 2 really excellent young players. Wharton a 6, but extremely comfortable in possession, and Kobbie Mainoo, one of the most press-resistant players in the league, and just all-round game intelligence at 8. And he won't play any of them. He plays a dodgy right back in central midfield. It's absolutely mad. And as we hear, I mean, we're recording a couple hours before the next England game, so this may well go out after the England game. But as we're hearing, Conor Gallagher is going to start in central midfield, and basically the rest of the team is going to be the same, and we're going to get the same kind of performance, because Gallagher is not suddenly going to become an elite in possession player and transform England's performances. So we're going to get a pretty crap 1-0 win, and England will go through top. But it's been crap.
I mean, the thing is that the problem that they've had is a lack of control. And it reminds me a little bit with Gallagher, who they brought on as first sub in both games, that when, to me, it's like, this is not the problem. I mean, I know they felt like there was a lack of energy, but to me, the lack of energy was something that looked like that because of lack of control. It reminds me a little bit of when United are getting a doing by Barca in the 2009 final, and so he brings Tevez on at half-time to try and speed the game up. But obviously, they just passed it around him, when actually, if you're going to do anything in that game, what he needed was Berbatov, because then at least you can start holding the ball, get the ball in, it'll stick, and you won't give it away, and then you can do something from there. And I mean, I know that Rice is an automatic pick, but part of me is like, if I had real bollocks and I was the manager of that team, I wouldn't pick him either. I'd pick Wharton, Mainoo, and Bellingham.
Yeah.
Because I'd have Bellingham a bit deeper, in the knowledge that Mainoo could also play as a number 10. But the thing with Rice is he's not quite a 6, and he's not quite an 8. Because he's not quite a 6 because he's not that good at taking the ball on the half turn and passing it forward quickly, accurately, and simply. But also, he's not good enough on the ball to be a number 8. And yeah, we know he's a really good player, because we like the fact that he can drive with the ball, his leadership. And with Arsenal, he plays in a structure that is more given to getting the best out, and the team works. But even then, they've had to adjust their team to play with Jorginho or Partey, because Rice is not a number 6. And when he started playing as a number 6, he looked like a centre-back playing in midfield to me. And he's better than that now. He's getting better at some other things. They crosses the ball quite well, takes their balls quite well now. So he's adding value. But in general play, I think that Rice is also a problem. And I said this on Twitter, but I wonder if international football is actually a bit of a problem for Rice, because it's slower. And he's a player who wants the game to be quick. Once it's slower, it's more technical, and Rice isn't offering you jack shit in that situation. But when it's hurly-burly and hair and scary, even though the Premier League is a way higher level than these Euros, it doesn't suit Rice, I don't think. But more generally, I've been enjoying the games. I wonder if, when you watch some of the less fancy teams, if you think these players are peaking for this, and then you watch France there and you think these players, some of these are peaked already, and they're kind of hanging on a little bit.
Well, Southgate talked about it. He said they weren't fit enough to press, which was a kind of interesting confession. I don't know whether he meant fit enough, but I think he meant condition. They're tired and stuff like that.
Rather than like unfit to be a company director.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing was, in one of the interviews, Rice was asked, it's been said that you're not fit enough to press, and he was like, "This is absolutely rubbish."
He didn't like it, did he?
He didn't like it at all, and then the guy didn't have the heart to go, "Well, it was the manager who said it." I did enjoy that, yeah. But I agree with you. I mean, I think in these Euros, even Germany are not pressing that high, right? They're doing a bit more and they look more like a club side than any of the other teams. I think in the Euros,
that's because they've got a proper manager.
I mean, I think Nagelsmann knows what he's doing. He's very clear, and he's had enough time now with these players to get a system in place. And
also, comparing to Southgate, if Southgate was managing club level, unless he was managing Man United, he'd be managing whoever. I don't even know.
He's going to be managing, or an MLS side or something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, Deschamps is not going to come out of this and get a big job. So I think, there's a part of it where I feel like Nagelsmann knows how to coordinate a press. We've seen his teams do it. Gareth Southgate doesn't. Even when they try and press, it's not a good press. It's not one that anyone really struggles of which anyone struggles to get.
Yes. Okay, let's stop talking about this nonsense and talk about some real football, or something like that. Goings on at Manchester United, that handsome bastard Ruud van Nistelrooy might be coming back to the club. Yes, I have to say, pure fan service, this one, if he is. I mean, I'm sure there's loads of technical reasons why he might come in, and maybe he's a very good coach, and maybe this is just speculation. I don't know, but I have to say, reading that, thoroughly loved it. Would love him back at the club. What are your initial thoughts on this one?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, I love Ruud van Nistelrooy. So, and yeah, he has aged incredibly well. You've got to give him credit for that. But I think that it is a fan pleaser, but it feels also like Ten Hag's involved, and I don't think he gives a fuck about that. Is he going to replace Benny McCarthy, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it's unclear because Benny McCarthy going back to Kaiser Chiefs, or there was speculation that he might do that to take over the main coaching job there. Maybe. I mean, the reports this morning said assistant manager, so either replacing Mitchell van der Gaag or Steve McLaren, or just adding to another first team coach. There were reports a couple of weeks ago that the Ineos team really, really wanted to add another coach, whether Ten Hag liked it or not, just to have another technical voice in there, because obviously he was incredibly stubborn last season with a failing strategy, It wasn't until the last 3 games of the season that they were like, yeah, all right, we better change this around, which was interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, we don't really know what Ruud can have as a coach, but he probably can coach the strikers. We do have at least one striker who could use some expert coaching. I mean, not as much as he could use working on his first touch and his control, I would suggest, but it would be nice to have him around. I complained about this with Ole. I always kind of felt that they should have insisted that you have the job, but we're going to get you the best coaches that there are to fill in your gaps. I mean, maybe they did. Maybe McKenna was that, and we just didn't know it. But it just depends. Like Steve McLaren was a baffling appointment, in at least the way it looked to me. Like, obviously, there's a lot of stuff I don't know, but it was very hard to grasp what that guy would have to add 10, 15 years after he was at his peak in a game that's changed a lot. And it's hard to know what he is adding. So I'm happy for them to get another coach. Don't know if Ruud's the right guy, but what a hairline.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of his coaching career has been kind of interesting, hasn't it? He was with the PSV youth team for a while and then had a season at coaching at PSV, and it appears that his other option is to take over the first team role at Burnley. Obviously back down in the Championship, but they've got private equity backing, parachute payments and all of that, and they're probably favourites to come up again, whoever the coach is. It's just the kind of way it is, given the disparity in finances. So it's an interesting choice. Joining coaching staff at United, obviously, there's an emotional appeal there.
And you think that the job might be available in November.
And you might be thinking, yeah, Ten Hag's, there's a very good chance he gets the boot. So, maybe Ruud can step up. Anything but Southgate, whose contract with England ends in December, by the way. It's a very worrying thing on the horizon that, like, Ratcliffe's boner for Southgate doesn't seem to have gone down yet. I mean, I'm making this up, of course. It's pure speculation, but it's out of fear, isn't it? That absolute cardigan-wearing twat.
Sorry, the boner's out of fear or Southgate's out? Because I'm thinking, doing well to still get one at his age.
Ratcliffe. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, 70. What is he? 71.
I guess you'd still hope to be
active.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, there's always medicinal help there, I suppose. Yeah. Anyway, interesting speculation. I think a lot of the fans would really enjoy it. Obviously, seeing Ruud on the touchline, and if it happens, great. Definitely need a different voice in there in the coaching team. I'm sure. I'm not surprised. Okay, more widely, we talked a little bit about on the last pod about Ratcliffe's interview with Bloomberg. It's like a 40-minute interview. It's quite wide-ranging, but there's a lot on United in there. It's kind of interesting your take on that first, and then we didn't talk on the last pod about his comments about the women's team, and I think it would be good to talk about that as well. What did you think of the interview more generally? Did you catch all of it?
I haven't watched all of it, but I mean, I think the stuff. I mean, who could possibly have guessed that a Brexity Tory polluter would not be big on governance?
Yep.
And
shocking.
I hate that bullshit.
Yeah.
The idea that we're somehow hampering ourselves and whatever else. Because I think that I'll keep back there. I say this all the time, so you probably heard me say it before. But if I look at the best league titles of my lifetime, the most enjoyable ones, it's really easy. 93, 96, 99, 03, 07, and 13. And the thing that they all have in common is we didn't win the league the year before. It is not healthy for these leagues that don't properly look after redistribution of wealth to not do that. Because we'll take the piss out of Paris winning in France every year and Bayern winning in Germany every year when Juve were doing it in Italy. Because who wants to watch that bullshit?
Yeah.
You want there to be jeopardy. You want it to be hard. It sounds ridiculous now we haven't won the league for a decade on, but you think about winning the league in 2001, it was 97. It's just like, yeah, all right. It was just really a chance. 97 is just a chance to have another go at Europe.
Yeah.
And 01, it was a dull as shit season.
20-point win, yeah.
And New Year's Day, it was over. I remember we played West Ham on New Year's Day. We City won the Football League again, this time on New Year's Day. And there was this time in the second year. And obviously it was good to take the piss out of West Ham with that kind of stuff. But in terms of satisfaction that you get from it, those 97 and 01 were the two that were the easiest that I personally, and I think a lot of us got the least nutters from, because it was easy. And the point of governance is the idea that it should be competitive, and also that, it shouldn't just be a matter of who has the biggest exchequer. And particularly when you're dealing with state wealth and the state wealth of your rivals, there should be nothing that will make you say this is all right.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting. He hasn't addressed that because he actually seems to have some kind of admiration for City as well. He's only ever said positive stuff. Literally only positive stuff. And he's never talked about the state factor there or in Newcastle. But yes, he's against PSR regulations. He's against the linkage to the lowest club's broadcast revenue. He talks in very general terms about the damage to the English game, the product through regulation. He has talked about how much money the Premier League has to spend on lawyers, and that's because they spent £30 million last year on lawyers, and that's almost all fighting City, Everton and Nottingham Forest over these regulations that the clubs voted for. So, I think he's not seeing the wood for the trees a little bit. with this one, and unless
still Greenwood.
yeah, there you go. We're on the theme, aren't we? Unless he has some plan, which I don't think he does necessarily, to go, okay, well, I've got a company that's worth 60 billion. I've personally got 20 billion, and I took 500 million pounds in dividends last year. It's my legacy. I'm just going to pour money in like Roman Abramovich, and there's unlimited wealth available here. Should I be able to do it? Unless he has that plan. He's not said that. He's actually...
Is he able to do that with PSR?
Well, he's not able to do that with PSR, and that's the point. So, yeah.
So he can't do it.
Yeah.
And he obviously wants United to get good quick, because he wants them to be good before he dies. It's legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And also, he knows that there won't be infinite patience. So he does want them to get good, but it has to be done in a fair manner, not just spending as much money as you possibly can, doing it in a totally artless and conniving way like City. Who wants that?
Yeah, no, I don't want that.
That's not. It might be success. It's not glory.
No, I fully agree. I mean, as much as I want United to be good, the sense that through our glory years with Fergie, it was organic. It was the fans, the millions of fans around the world with the broadcast deal, and the thousands of fans that go to Old Trafford every week, that allowed United to have the finances to get the players that Fergie wanted, and the brilliance of Fergie to go build those teams over and over again. Right. So, yeah, this idea, and it's fantasy, of course, because it's actually not going to happen because the rule's not going away. But the idea that Ratcliffe could just turn up with hundreds of millions of pounds and go, yeah, you, and you. Anyway, he's talked in a very, actually more like the opposite to that. He said, we're not going to buy the next Mbappe. We're not going to buy Mbappe. We want to buy the next Mbappe. And that's their strategy. They are, of course, like hitting a bit of a roadblock with that, because actually very good young players, given the quality of data and scouting now available around the world, is highly competitive. And not only that, the benchmark for crap young players has now been set at like £20 million, because Everton, Newcastle, and Aston Villa are wanking each other, and Juve are wanking each other off over like absolute no mark reserve players to get round these PSR rules and kick the can down the road of their problems, which is unbelievable as well, but perfectly legal within the rules. So
I mean, I think that is not. We spoke about this before in different contexts. That rules that encourage you to sell the players you produce don't seem to be good. That doesn't seem to be like I'd have to sit down and read the rules and think about a different way around them. But I bet there is one.
Yeah,
it's not my job. I'm not an expert in finance, but I bet there is one.
Well, it's the trigger is the accounting practice of saying there's a book value of 0 on an academy player. Book value is 0.
It's always yours, right?
It's always yours. So the book value is 0. So everything you sell is pure profit, and you book it in year one. Whereas buying players, you amortize over 5 years. The net of this, they're not magically creating new money. They're still spending that money, and there is a material impact on their annual PSR limits and squad cost limits through buying a player and having to amortize it over 5 years. There's still an impact. But immediately we are going to fail PSR this year unless we sell some players. It definitely encourages teams to think in very short-term fashion, which is selling young players on to book the profit. And the idea that they feel like they got together and had, oh, by the way, if you sell this player here and you sell this player here, we can book the profit. I mean, Juve did this and they got in a lot of trouble for it, right? And there was, it turned into a criminal case because they overinflated the Arthur deal. And it's going to be very hard for the Premier League to say, yeah, you've done the same thing, even with the broad wording on how the regulation is, because how much is a reserve team player worth? I mean, James Trafford went from City to Burnley for 15 million plus 5 million in add-ons. He'd never played a minute of first team football. He was a bit crap last season. Like, is that now the benchmark for a reserve team player? I mean, the benchmark for United's reserve team players appears to be 1 to 2 million.
Nothing. That's one of the other things. It's just one of those things that everyone else seems to be able to sell crap players that no one's idle for loads of money. and we can't sell quite good players that just aren't good enough for us for anything. And doesn't seem to be just the facility of wages.
No, I mean, yeah, it's. I wonder with you'd think with United's academy winning the Premier League and the playoff thing and the cup thing that there'd be a bit more of a halo effect on some of those younger players. I mean, maybe it just needs a couple of years for them to get closer to the first team, and a couple of years more success for people that got going. Oh yeah, that academy is quite good. It's producing some players, and it'll be an extra revenue source. All right,
I guess the one like Mason Greenwood is probably the one, isn't he, who might unlock some of the summer and get him and Sancho. And Sancho, then all of a sudden, like there's quite a lot of wages off the books. And then
well, there's already a massive amount of wages off the books. So with Varane going, if we can get rid of Casemiro for any money, and Martial going, that's a huge amount of wages off the book. In fact, actually, I think Swedish Rumble did a breakdown of what he thinks the impact is. Very good analysis of the reduction in costs for United. It's like 75 million a year. It's a lot. Anyway, Mason Greenwood, by the way, if we can sell him for 30 million, that's 150 million pounds spent this year. Now, you still have the costs over the next few years, and United have got a very high amount of player outstanding fees. It's like over 200 million in outstanding fees and an annual amortized cost of like 180 or something like that. Add to the wages, and it's a very high squad cost. So, you're not magically coming up with something, but he would unlock quite a lot of spending if we can get rid of Greenwood. And there appears to be something of an auction for him, even if it's nowhere near the kind of fee we'd have got 3 years ago. Ratcliffe also talked about the women's team, and I did want to talk about this a little bit.
Yes.
Because many of the things that the Ineos team are doing feel like the right direction. But he said, and I really meant to talk about this the other day, and I don't want to be like a Ratcliffe and ignore this because it's an important topic to talk about. But he said, we haven't really got onto that yet. We've just been focusing on the first team. He means the men's first team, which was kind of interesting language, which everyone's picked up on. And unsurprising given that before he called the women's team the ladies team. And it was a little bit like, ladies, they play football too. Maybe, yeah, he feels like your dodgy uncle at Christmas, doesn't he? Or your granddad who's saying racist stuff. I'm just waiting for Ratcliffe to say something like that. But he, they clearly, this is not a priority. And
yeah, I mean, he called the men the first team, didn't he?
Yeah.
Which it's one of those things where you can understand where you're used to talking about things in a certain way. It happened with England when Harry Kane said England haven't won a title since 1956 or whatever. Yeah. We can either say, like, you're out of order, which I understand, or we can say, we obviously knew you were talking about the men because you know the women did, and that's what you're used to doing.
Yeah.
All right. Also understand.
I gave him a leeway on that one with Kane.
100%.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you don't have a plan and you don't care. That seems to be the situation because you think that you're just not interested.
No, it appears to be, and like there's stasis there because they don't have a new director. Polly Bancroft left for Grimsby last season. They haven't replaced her. They brought someone in from the foundation as a kind of interim. They gave Skinner a new 1-year contract. No one was happy with his performance last year. Like the team were, although they won the FA Cup, which put a nice polish on things. The team performed pretty badly in the WSL. They've signed no players this season and let some go. So it looks like they might be going backwards again. Mary Earps has not signed a brand new contract, so we're unsure what's going to happen, which she's out of contract in 5 days' time. So there's a lot of uncertainty there. And then with Ratcliffe basically admitting, whatever his language, that it's not a priority. They haven't thought about it. Kind of, you can understand why fans of the women's team there would be pretty concerned, or all fans should be pretty concerned that, a major part of the club is kind of being ignored. And I've said this before, it's the easiest bit to fix from a financial perspective. We need someone in there who's focused on the management of it. I mean, the overall director piece and the actual finances, £5 million would double the women's team income. Yeah, 5.2. I think it was. And there are ways to funnel that money into that team. It's not a hard thing to focus on and give some, given where the WSL is and given the growth of the women's game, it seems a real blind spot not to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not. Again, like, who would have thought that a Brexit Tory polluter wouldn't care about looking after the women's team? I mean, it's back to that, isn't it? And we said it from the beginning. He was better than Glazers, way better than Katzer. It's not good.
Yeah. And I'm glad I think we'll keep talking about it. And I hate this idea of lionizing owners anyway. It's like
it's like the opposite of United, that shit.
I know. They're just, actually, Andy Mitten says this all the time. Like, United fans have hated every owner they've ever had. And
with good reason. Apart from like going long way back.
Gibson or whatever,
when we had men saving the club.
Yeah. Sure. Back in the day, all football clubs were born out of working men's clubs, schools, colleges, churches. Basically there's that, and then that was unsustainable during the as professionalism became a thing, and local businessmen took over the clubs. And it's a really, really clear pattern. And not all of them have been great. We had the fucker who made sausages, and then his son who likes to peep under doors.
Who sold condemned meat to schools.
Yep.
Like, just think about that for a second. Yeah, whose son got busted peering in toilets.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just, what football suffers from is it's too fucking good. And that is the problem. Because it's so good, it attracts the worst people who try and trap it for their own ends. Some of the worst people in the world. And we can't leave it alone because it's so good. And they know that. We're addicted. It's just too good. And they know that there's no way to communicate with as broad an audience of people in the world other than through football.
Yeah.
And like nothing traverses borders like football, differences of sexuality, sex, religion, gender, all of these different things. And the thing that links people across all of those is football.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else that compares to it. Not religion, not music. There's so much diversity in music, but football. And anywhere in the world that you go, you will find football, particularly the English Premier League. And these guys know that. And they know that they can more or less do what they want because we'll keep coming back. And
yeah. And the interesting thing, even in countries where football isn't culturally the same as it is in England, the Premier League breaks through. It's amazing. If you walk down the street here and ask people, where's the World Cup being played in 2026? I bet you could ask 10 people and 9 of them wouldn't have a clue that it's in the United States. Go, hey, do you watch any Premier League?
And Mexico
and Canada. Yeah, I bet, mostly in the States. Ask them about the Premier League and you get a really big response. It's incredibly popular. And MLS games get good crowds, but generally it hasn't culturally resonated, but the Premier League would break through, so football is an amazing vehicle and the Premier League is even better. If you went to even in countries where people aren't allowed to play football, there's probably a Premier League contract. I don't know if there aren't any countries where they don't have a contract at the moment. So, it's incredible stuff. And we've got, the breakdown of owners of Premier League clubs now are American private equity guys, other rich guys who are doing it either to make profit or probably not because the Premier League loses loads of money or for their own glorification. Guys like Ratcliffe Legacy and 2 state-run clubs, and it's an interesting mix of people, but they are all in it for what you're talking about. It's glory and money.
Yeah, not one of them is sound, I would say. And so it's interesting what you say about the Premier League versus international football, because watching the group stages of these Euros, I still think what we've seen certain things where they reach parts that the Premier League, the club football just can't. So if you look, for example, like I did the Turkey-Georgia game, which is probably still the best game I've seen so far. And the level of feverishness is something I think, because when you have people who have in one way or another been or feel that they're kind of different or separate or victimized for who they are. That will never happen. I mean, that will never happen with a club, because it tends almost never, because it tends not to work. It tends to work in countries rather than in cities or whatever. And there's a level of mania that you get with some international football, particularly I think with in like the old Soviet Union, like where they've recently had wars, Croatia, Serbia, those places where they've recently had war, where the football club, where the national football team is basically almost a proxy for that. Like it's just a continuation of it and different guys, and where people who are supporting them or people who are playing for them, they know people who died, like part of their family story, part of their family history. And I know United have a little bit of that with Munich, and Liverpool have it with Hillsborough, but it is different that where you have war in living memory, or very close to living memory, that what you get is a level, that level of mania that you can't. And I prefer club football, and I'm not that fussed by international football, but
tournaments are a bit different. Yeah. The Turkish fans, absolutely incredible. 3 hours before the game, and they got jumbo jet levels of noise being outputted. Yeah, I mean, just fantastic support. And surprise, England fans are behaving like absolute dickheads.
Fans, they're not the only ones. There've been various. There've been others who've been upbraided for racism and what have you. So like there's a downside to that as well, because that way in which football is almost a proxy for or continuation of war means in groups and out groups, and the way that people talk about, respond to, treat out groups in real life and in the stands is obviously still a problem. Humans being humans.
Right. Should we close out with some transfer gossip? It's like nothing's actually happened yet, but there's kind of some interesting moves. I mean, on off maybe negotiations over Jared Branthwaite. I wonder whether Everton, with all these shenanigans around selling players, I mean, they sold Calvert-Lewin to Newcastle. I wonder whether they actually haven't they sold Calvert-Lewin to Newcastle? I think they have.
As far as yesterday, that was off.
Oh, was that off? Right. I thought that was.
I don't think so.
All right. Well, they were trying to sell Calvert-Lewin to Newcastle and buy an unknown Newcastle youngster to net out the PSR costs. Yeah. I know, amazing. Calvert-Lewin being an academy player, of course, they'd be able to book the whole fee. Anyway, that may impact how United behave in the next week before the 30th of June, because that's the accounting deadline. And if Everton have any problems this year, which I think most analysts say they still do, then they may need to sell at some kind of discount. Otherwise, maybe they don't desperately need to sell, and that will cause a problem. Obviously, Todibo is off because UEFA has said you can't do transfers between clubs in the same competition with the same owners. And Ratcliffe complained about that as well. With kind of, it's. I know I said this on the last pod, and everyone else in the United Twitter has also said it. But City selling Savio to themselves being okay just because he's actually literally registered to Troyes and was only on loan at their other club, Girona. I think that's a bit, And everyone said, hey, you should sell Todibo to Lausanne. Lausanne can loan him to us for the season. And I mean, I can't see why that's wrong, actually, other than Lausanne can't afford it. So anyway, he's off. Lenny Yoro's probably headed to Madrid since they get everyone they're interested in. And so we're on to the fourth choice potential centre-back there. Appears to be the case, right?
Yeah, I mean, Branthwaite, it still might happen. I mean, even if they don't need it for PSR, maybe it'll get to a point where we sell enough dickheads to actually be able to spend the money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also one of those situations in that we do need the centre-back because Varane has got.
Yeah.
And really, depending on what they see in the future for Camberwala, really we need two centre-backs because we can't be within one injury of Dumb and Dumber again. I can't. It's for the same reason we need two midfielders.
Yeah.
Because we can't be with an injury or suspension of McT or whoever. So I think that I mean, and what I'd actually like, the first thing that we did was spend whatever it took to get the right midfield player and then deal with the rest afterwards. That's what I would do, but that's not what they're doing. And today we were linked with, what's his name, Manuel Ugarte from Paris, who, and this I think is going to be, this is one of my fears with Ineos, is they're going to be looking for good deals and sort of, not that is a bad thing, but ultimately you need some elite level quality. We have some, but in that particular position, I'm not really willing to compromise.
Yeah.
So I know how good Joshua Zirkzee is. I mean, I've seen the same compilations that everyone else has seen. And so as your kind of second choice striker, then I could say, okay, like if you think that is value for money, I'll be prepared to speculate there. But on my first choice, number 6, I just want the best player around that we can get. And I wouldn't really do too much else until I hear I was doing that. But I say Zirkzee as being sort of number 2 or whatever, but it actually feels like am I going to use the word profile? But as a profile, he is much more the kind of centre forward that Ten Hag has previously used. Someone you bounce the ball off, looks after it really nicely.
He's a unit.
Can run with it.
Yeah.
But also who fits our wide players better. So if Højlund's going to be our number 1, we need our wide players getting on the outside and fizzing crosses to the front post, crosses and cutbacks. And to me, that means we have to sign someone. You can stick Garnacho on the right and have him do that. Rashford's never doing that. Doesn't matter where he plays on either side, he's never doing that for you. So you have to buy a right back. And we need a left back, really, because Luke Shaw's never fit. And we're back to that same, we need about 8 players thing, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, on the forwards, it is interesting because obviously Højlund has been asked to play in a way that doesn't suit his game by Ten Hag, right? You know, he's been asked to play like a number 9 and he wants the ball in front of him, not with his back to goal. And it's kind of, it's probably compromised him and hopefully doesn't compromise his development overall. But so actually, who knows? I don't know. I saw bits and pieces of Bologna last season, so he's not really had any time with the Dutch team. Obviously, they're playing right now, so maybe he's like got a hat trick while we're talking.
Yes, they're 1-0 down.
There you go. So, and it's Veghorst that Koeman turns to when he's desperate. So who knows? Maybe he's good enough. But and the other speculation was around Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Apparently, interest from Turkey in him. It won't be a very big fee because he's got a year left on his contract.
I'll drive him.
You drive him? Yeah, there we go. Woo. You wouldn't literally drive him to Turkey. That's a very long drive.
If I had to, I fucking would. I'd do it for you, and I'd do it for everyone.
Not in your car. You wouldn't. You'd break down halfway there.
And no problem with the paintwork. Yeah, but as I said, I previously said that if I was selling the fullback, I'd sell the right back, I'd sell Dalot because I feel like Wan-Bissaka is different. But I've changed my mind on that, actually, in that we're going to try and play a particular way, and if someone can't play that way, then they need to go somewhere else, and that's him. So, yeah, I would take whatever we could get for him and try and buy someone good, which he is not.
No, he's not. And then finally, Michael Elise, it looks like, well, at least the speculation today is that Bayern are prepared to meet the release clause.
Yeah, he's going to Bayern. I think that's more than speculation. He's going to Bayern. It's one of those Bayern where kind of, if I was a player, I don't think I would want to go there just to get loads of medals. I don't know. I mean, who knows?
Well, it's unclear, isn't it? Because they came 3rd last season. So
I wouldn't go to Chelsea either, and maybe that was all they had available at the time. But yeah, it's quite rare you see top players like that leaving the Premier League. Players who could go on to be special, they tend not to leave the Premier League.
No, it's very true. It's an unusual move, isn't it? And clearly United weren't in the right position to do that deal, and maybe Chelsea weren't either, because they do have quite a large PSR overhead at the moment. Anyway, good player, and we'll see how he does in Bayern. Is that it for the week? I think that's all the gossip.
Yes, I guess we'll see what happens. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe there'll be some movement on Brentford. In that, it's one of those situations, isn't it, where at the moment it feels like the difference is miles away. But if you can get to a point where you're sort of 5 mil away, then feels like then you can try and make something happen. But also, you might need the players to do something as well.
Well, exactly. And look, he's a good young player, and he's of the profile United need. He's very good in duels. He's physical. He's decently speedy. He's a very good passer off either foot, left-footed. So he can obviously, when Martinez gets crocked, he can play there.
He can play. He doesn't have played a lot of left, but I actually think he's right-footed, and he's sort of developed the left foot.
Right.
And I saw him say recently that I think short passing with the right foot, long passing with the left foot.
A bit like Mason Greenwood, right? He's ambidextrous.
I think they call it ambipedal these days.
Ambipedal.
That talk about profiles call it ambipedal. Right. I mean, I found it always a bit odd with Mason Greenwood. To me, it felt like, you're left-footed, mate. This is bullshit. Like, you're not bad with your right, but you're left-footed.
The amount of screamers he banged in with his right. Anyway, I don't want to praise that guy. We will be rid of that problem shortly, hopefully. Everyone, thank you very much for listening. We'll be back probably at the weekend and maybe with some shorts on our YouTube channel, which you can check out at youtube.com/no question about that. You're on Twitter at Daniel Harris. I'm on Twitter, NQAT Pod. You can find us on Facebook, although I almost never post anything there, so you probably won't find us there. We have an Instagram channel where I do post clips of our us talking. Fortunately, the AI can do that for you these days, so I don't have to go around clipping it myself.
Oh,
I know, amazing stuff. We'll catch you at the weekend. Thank you very much.
Please.